How come I don't hear anything? Okay. Okay. So continue, yeah? Can I?
Sorry, what?
We continue?
Yeah.
Okay. So also I looked at the schedule, so I don't really know what I did or how I was thinking, because I don't know if you saw it, because there's a break between 4:15 and until 4:45, and then it's 15 minutes meditation and concluding prayers. I don't think we need to do this. It's not much point having half an hour break and then 15 minutes doing something. So how about we just go on for an hour and a half and then finish at 4 o'clock? Are you happy with this? Yeah? Yeah. Good. Okay. So how are you after the death meditation? Was it easy? Was it scary? Was it opening? Was it calming? Was it, well, how was it?
I think for me, it's not scaring anymore, because it's not the first time I'm making it with you. But it always causes thinking and, you know, what shall I do with it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you mean, what shall I do with it? I mean,
not just because scaring, okay. So after you are making the same meditation, sometimes it's not scaring anymore.
Yeah, right.
But I think, not taking it as, okay, I finished the meditation, and I'm going to eat lunch and forget it.
Yeah, yeah.
I just think that I want to do with it something. I'm not sure that I know what, but I know that I want to do with it something. Like taking it a step forward.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, what it's supposed to do to us is to, you know, as we said, okay, what do I really want? What is the meaning of my life? And where, you know, where do I want to put my energy, my resources, my time? Not just Dharma, because otherwise we get, you know, we become too serious and all this. But also to use moments in our life also to train for death, like when we have negative states of mind, or when the mind is very agitated, to really try to apply antidotes and to think that, yeah, this I can use at the time of death. It's a little bit like this, you know, and to live a life that we know that we are mortal, that we're going to die, and what do I need to do now in order to die a peaceful death? So if you think, well, what else shall I do? It's a little bit like when somebody finds out that they have, you know, what's it called, like a mortal or lethal, no,
terminal illness.
Terminal illness. You know, since I'm here, I'm always speaking French, and I somehow, because it's also foreign language, and somehow I lose my English a little bit. The other one, the German, came easy because it's my first language. So thank you for helping with the terminal sickness. So if somebody finds out, you know, their whole life gets turned upside down. But then if everything stops. But then if they don't die immediately, they go back to pretty normal also. So, you know, when we become aware that we're going to die one day, all of a sudden we get a bit too excited and we go, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this. And then slowly we calm down again. And then if you are a Dharma practitioner, actually what you notice is that I don't need to change that much in my life. So that's enough. Yeah. And maybe it doesn't make us do so many things, but it makes us one thing to be aware of. And so when somebody else around us dies, we're not so devastated. So I know that I'm going to die enough. Okay. I read that, what Dina is saying. I'm going to die and have no idea when. The teaching of meditation helped me to understand what is really important, that I must practice this daily. Yeah, exactly. May also take life with humor. Yeah, so you see, we have a member in Bern that she has a multiple myeloma, which is quite a serious sickness. And you know that it's cancer, right? You're not going to recover from it. You have chemotherapy, then you have periods of time where you're more or less okay. Then it comes back, then it's again chemotherapy and like this. So before she was diagnosed with the sickness, she was always a bit depressed and had a very heavy mind. And she didn't have much joy and much fun in her life. She saw everything as quite heavy and quite difficult. And then she got diagnosed with this cancer. And first it was like real disaster. You know, she was just crying all the time and just, why me? And I was living always so healthy, which is true. But now after 5 years and after her third, she's in the middle of her third or even fourth chemotherapy, I can't remember. So it's quite a number of years. And she enjoys everything that one can enjoy. It's quite amazing how the sickness, which one thinks, oh my gosh, life is finished, because it is difficult having these chemotherapies all the time and not knowing, when it will be finished. But whenever she has a moment she can enjoy, she totally enjoys. So it's quite interesting to see. And she's very inspiring. She's really practicing. Whereas before it was a bit like, she wasn't really applying the methods, whereas now she does apply them. Right, when she's sick or when she's in chemotherapy, doing Tonglen or medicine Buddha or something like that. So I think this is what it is. It's not, the meditation is not made to scare us. The meditation is made so that we come closer to reality, that we are dieable, kind of, that we're not eternal, that at one point we will die. And I think if we meditate it again and again and again, as Noah says, 5 minutes later, you forget. Me too, in a way. I was having lunch on the balcony in the sun, and all of a sudden I remembered, if I have to feel grateful for what I have in my plate and all these kinds of things. So, but the more we repeat it, the more we will remember, and the more we will make it part of our lives. There's a lot of talk about death and dying. At the moment, especially here in Switzerland. And I think it's really necessary, because nobody ever talked about this, but everybody is very grateful. I get asked to come to quite a lot of events when one talks about death. And whenever we do it and when it's finished, so usually it's interface events. And whenever we do it, whenever it's finished, everybody comes out of there quite light and quite, because they think it's something meaningful. I think that's what it is, finding meaning in your life. So this is for us to see how do I want to spend my life, and it helps us to prevent doing things that are not so meaningful. Yeah. So I know, it might scare us at the moment, at the beginning, but because we never think about it. But then with time, we get used to it. So that's what it's for, that we're getting used to it, and that we do use it in our daily life. Okay, Noah? It is? Yeah. Yeah, it's not that, this was a really good meditation when you come out of it and you're totally scared. That's not the point. That's not the purpose. The purpose is that we use the good condition that we have now in order to purify as much negative karma as we can, and to produce as much positive karma as we can, merit, so that we can continue with the path. Because I think attaining enlightenment in this life is a little bit not very realistic, especially, for me. Yeah, but what I can do, or what I can try to do, not to fall to the lower states where I have no chance of practicing Dharma, and then be caught there for I don't know how long. Yeah. So this is what we can do. We can all practice ethical conduct and think about our actions. And this is the next topic, is karma, what determines what comes at the time of death. And also preparing for death is to really, from time to time, go through these death absorptions, which are also in the booklet, and to really train that, especially when you go to sleep, so that the mind calmly goes through these stages, so that we get familiar with it, and we're not too scared at the time of death, when what we think reality is kind of loses its power, you know. And you can, when you are with dying people, very often they describe experiences that have nothing to do with what we see. And then we think, oh, they're just hallucinating, and we are right because we're not dying, but we're all hallucinating. Yeah. So things that we are very familiar with, and things that we are sure they're going to be that way, they become different. Like, for example, you have a feeling of falling, and you know, and even though you're lying on the bed, so that can be quite scary. But when you know it's normal, or when you know these death absorptions, and you are with somebody who is actually in the process of dying, and they kind of start screaming that they're falling, and you can just tell them that it's normal, they calm down. Because the moment somebody tells us it's normal, we start to accept. It's only when we think it's not normal that we start to fight. Like, it's the same, you know, with this friend of mine and her sister with her heart operation. All these effects that she has now, which are quite scary because she can hardly breathe. And but if the doctor comes and says, yeah, but this is normal to have this just after an operation, you calm down. I don't know if it has ever happened to you. You know, you were quite scared about something that happened in your body. You didn't know what it was. You went to see a doctor, and he explained why it was, or what it was, and then that was it. The pain was still the same, or the effect was still the same, but you knew that it was kind of normal. Did you ever have such an experience? No? Because also, like in Dharamsala, at one point during a meditation, during a Lam Rim retreat, somebody came knocking on my door, maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and you know, boom, boom, boom. So I went to open, and he said, oh, I think I'm dying. And you know, my first thought was, to be honest, well, what do you want me to do about this? You know, I'm not a doctor. How can I save you? But it was only the thought. I didn't say anything. So I asked him to come in, and he came in, and I always made them hot chocolate the first thing. When they were kind of freaking out. So I asked him for what he is experiencing. And he said, well, you know, I have, the heart is racing, and it's very tight in here. So he thought he was having a heart attack, actually. And so all the signs that he described, because I also had it at one point, is what is called lung. Yeah, it's like you are trying too hard, you're too tense, and then the winds, the energies that move upwards, make this tightness in your chest, and it can be quite painful, and you really think that this is it, because I had the same thoughts when I did my first Vipassana retreat. So I said, oh, well, you know, you have lung. He had no idea what it was, but for him, he had never heard the word lung, but for him, somebody knowing what it is, and then somebody not freaking out, even though I'm not a doctor, it helped him calm down. And then he still wanted, like at 8 o'clock in the morning, he still wanted to go to Delhi to have his heart checked and everything. But I said, why don't you go to the Tibetan doctor first? And then, you know, it saves you the trip to Delhi, because it's a 12-hour trip from Dharamsala. So he went to see the Tibetan doctor. He came back. He was really radiating with joy. And he said, I have lung. I said, yeah, well, it's okay. Because he would have gone to Delhi. They wouldn't have found anything, because the heart is okay. It's just that the winds of these energies are too high. So if you practice quite a lot, if you meditate quite a lot, then, and if you have signs or symptoms like that, if you are somewhere near a Tibetan doctor, it's quite good to go and see them, so that they can do something about them. They are pills to do. And you know what they say, when you have this, then first stop your Dharma practice. This is why I said also at the beginning, or before we ended, you know, you also need to know when it's time to relax, because otherwise you do get lung. And it's just wind energies. So then when you have lung, they say you have to go and stay with people who laugh a lot, You have to go dancing, and if you're not a monk or a nun, it's good to drink some beer from time to time, because beer kind of relaxes you and grounds you. And if you have a partner, sex is also very good to release the energies. So quite interesting to see. You know, they don't tell you to practice more. They actually tell you to stop practicing and to relax. You know, practicing, I'm talking about sadhanas, meditation, study, these kind of activities. Okay, so then when we become aware that we are going to die, and Yanai, can you please give me the co-host so we can go into the text again? So then what will determine where I'm going to be reborn? And this is our karmic imprints.
Okay, I get it.
Thank you. So this is our karmic imprints. So maybe we look at the Lam Rim, at the foundation of all good qualities, you know. So again, we can look at these verses. Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth found only once, greatly meaningful, difficult to find again. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. Also, you know, when it says day and night takes its essence, it doesn't mean that you have to practice day and night and you can't sleep anymore. But in the morning, before you get up, to generate the motivation, in the evening before you go to sleep, you know, you rethink the day, and you dedicate all the positive energy that you have created during that day to the well-being and benefit of all sentient beings. So that's what it means. So then we also kind of practice at night. So your sleep even becomes time when you practice, if we go to sleep with the right attitude. But that also, you know, it's very difficult to remember. We kind of keep forgetting, isn't it? Because we're tired and then lie down, we're happy that we're in bed, and poof, and we sleep and we forget. So we missed another opportunity to kind of to strengthen our merit, our practice, our positive energy that we have in order to do what we want to do. So that's what it means, day and night. It takes its essence. Taking the essence is like being mindful of our mind state, being aware of our mind state. And when we see there's something negative arising, that then we try to apply antidotes, or at least, you know, not react upon it. This life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays. Death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. That's what we take with us. That's the only thing we take with us, actually, is our habits, our tendencies, in the form of these potentials or karmic seeds. So then finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. So then we have this whole list of what karma is. And actually, karma is a very, well, it is a complicated topic. It's not really a complicated topic. It's just that we can think and think and think, but we can't really, because we can't perceive it directly, you know. I mean, it's the same with seeds. What really makes the seed grow into a flower? We don't know, you know, but we see how when we put it in the earth and we give it the conditions that it needs, we see how then it gives a flower. And if the seed came from a white flower, it will probably make a white flower. It also has to do with earth and, you know, the minerals in the ground and these kind of things. But in general, it's, if the seed comes from a white flower, it will again be a white flower. If it comes from a red flower, it will make a red flower. So with material things, we understand the law of cause and effect, that we cannot have flowers if there is no seeds. And we cannot have seeds when there was not a previous flower. And there was no previous flower when there was no previous seeds. And when, you know, there was no previous flower when there was no previous seeds. And so it continues. And this is how they explain beginningless lifetimes. This is how they explain that nothing can be created. Everything needs a cause, and then it becomes an effect, and that same effect again becomes a cause. So this is how it works. So with material things, we understand. I mean, things can transform. Yeah, if you have a sheet of paper, you can burn it, then it's not a sheet of paper anymore, but still it continues to be like it becomes ash, who then can nourish the ground, or it becomes heat, who goes into the space when, you know, from the fire, from the flame. There's nothing we can really destroy so that it doesn't continue to be something. So that also means that there's nothing we can create. Like we cannot, nothing can exist from here's nothing, and then all of a sudden there's something. So when it comes down though to happy states or happy moments and unhappy moments, it's very difficult to understand that it is that it depends on previous actions that we did, because karma ripens quite slowly. Karmic imprints ripen like quite slowly, and so very often we don't see the cause anymore that we have created. And there's big misunderstandings of karma. So maybe we close that again so I can see you. Like very often when people talk about karma, they, you know, and they say, oh, well, it's my karma. So very often they only talk about unpleasant things that are happening to them. And then it sounds a bit to me, it doesn't have to be like that. But to me, it sounds a little bit, why it has nothing to do with me now, but it's like something that has been created in the past and now it just comes back. So I don't have to look at my behavior now because it's karma from the past, which is ripening when somebody has, you know, conflicts all the time or unpleasant situation like this. In a way, this is true, but still we have to look at our present situation that, you know, it can be that our behavior now is activating these seeds from the past, right? So when somebody says like this, well, it's my karma, I don't know, it's not my fault, it's just my karma. It sounds a bit to me like they're giving away responsibility, taking responsibility for how they behave now. Or, you know, that something, karma is something from totally outside. And as I said, has nothing to do with me now. Yeah. So anyway, when something ripens, like a headache or something like that, this is not karma, this is a karmic result. Yeah. Karma itself, the word karma means action. So we do an action, which of course has an immediate result, but that's not only the action that we do now that is creating that result. What is creating the result is more what we have done in the past, and then is one of these karmic potentials is ripening. If it wouldn't be like this, then every time we are kind to somebody, then some kindness should come back immediately. Every time we practice generosity, then something should come back. Every time we're unpleasant with somebody, something unpleasant should come back. Every time we cheat somebody, then also we should get cheated. But as we can see, it's not like this. So when we talk about karma, I think it's quite important that we take into consideration that we've had more than one lifetime. Okay, so that in a way, you know, it also, when we think that we had more than one lifetime and we don't know who we were in the past life, it lessens a little bit when you have a very difficult life. Because when you have a difficult life, people don't like you, or they even abuse you or take advantage of you, they don't respect you and all this, or they harm you in a bad way. And you hear about karma, so that this is a result of your previous actions from past lives, then you might get guilty and you might feel ashamed, and you even go into views like, okay, then I deserve it because this is karma, I was a bad person in past lives. But we don't know who we were in past lives, right? And so the way you are at the moment, you would never do this, but it's because you don't know, people are not born negative. We become negative because of certain circumstances, attitudes, influences from outside, and so on. So A lot of it is our own doing, but a lot of it also is due to conditions. So if you have like a very serious sickness, for example, there's this text is called The Wheel of Sharp Weapons, where it describes, I don't know, anybody knows that text? Yeah, okay. It's quite harsh because it says if this and this and this and this happens to you, all the negative stuff, yeah? This is the wheel of sharp weapons coming back because you have done this and this and this and this. So somebody who has MS was in the class when they studied this text, and she was devastated, because she's a really kind person. But she said, how could I have been so bad so that, in a past life that now this is happening to me. So this is not so much the purpose of studying about karma. It's not, what have I done in the past so this is happening to me now. That's not the purpose. We don't need to go and dig in the past. But also we think about karma so that we're not putting the blame on somebody else. And especially that we're careful now what we are creating for the future. So I think that's the main purpose why we do think about karma. So when we look at the list, maybe we just go through it, and then all the questions that you have or what you think about it. This is important to discuss, by the way. So what you think about this, then we can discuss it. But once you know all the features and all the characteristics, it will be easier for you to understand. Or, if I do this action, this will happen. Okay, so there's a lot of things that we need to know. So as I said, when we do an action, it creates a karmic imprint. The action itself is called karma. It creates a karmic imprint that when then the right conditions come together, and you do need conditions for this to ripen, it will ripen as such. So destructive karma results in suffering. Constructive karma results in happiness. What destructive, it would have been better actually here to put destructive actions result in suffering, constructive actions result in happiness. I think they put karma, or maybe I did. Anyway, that's how it is in the texts, because it's not just the action, it's also the attitude, how we do the action. But it's kind of, karma is definite. If we do something destructive, and what destructive karma means, or what makes the actions that we do that it is destructive, we will come to it. So it's not so much it is destructive because it harms somebody else. It is more because it leads to our own suffering in the future. That's why it's destructive. So it destructs, or it's unhelpful for what we really want. We want happiness and we don't want to suffer. Constructive means we get what we want, like well-being, freedom, peaceful mind, things go as we want them to go. Because we all know sometimes life is very easy, we have to maybe ask somebody for help, and before we do it, we think, oh gosh, this is very difficult, who is going to help me? And all of a sudden, you have all this help. Like 3 days ago, a friend of mine also, she sent me a WhatsApp saying, oh, Anila, I need your help because my sister is pregnant with twins and the pregnancy is very difficult. So they asked Lama Zopa Rinpoche what to do. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche told them to liberate 30,000 animals. Okay, not 3,000, not 300, 30,000 animals in order for the pregnancy to go well. So it means it's serious, right? And I don't know if anybody knows what animal liberation is. You buy animals that for sure they would be killed, not just any animals, but animals that they're not dying a natural death. So of course in India we buy goats and animals like this because it's a big center in Bodh Gaya with a lot of ground around, and then we have a person who is taking the goats out every day, and then they go and eat in the field, and then brings them back in the evening, and they're staying there until they die. And to buy the goats, we go down to the river where they are just about to be killed, to be, by the butcher, and then we buy them there. In in the West, it's a bit difficult because you don't know where to put these animals. So what we buy here, and also in Israel, we usually do at Yom Kippur, when I'm there, we buy crickets that would be there to feed reptiles. And it's quite easy because those, they are from the area, but they're being bred. It's a cricket farm where you buy big numbers, and then, you do practice with them that they have good rebirth. We're not just, buying them and liberating them. We also do practice with them so that they put some imprints on their body so that they have a good rebirth. Now, again, this sounds quite strange, I do admit, but it's quite a nice practice for those who have ever done it. Any of you have ever done animal liberation? At Yom Kippur? Maybe Orit, I'm not sure.
Yes, I did, but not exactly in Yom Kippur.
No, it doesn't have to be Yom Kippur.
Yeah, Mary is doing it all the time. So.
Oh yeah, exactly. And what do you think? It's is a nice practice? Is a good practice, or
it's very nice? It's very good.
Exactly.
And it's a great feeling when you send the crickets free. It's such a great feeling. You feel so happy to do that.
Yeah.
When they're walking free in the grass.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
Because, like liberating big animals, we cannot do because we have to care for them. But crickets is easy. You just release them and then that's it. And I don't know if it really, when we do the practice, not just buying them and liberating them, but also doing the practice, circumambulating around the altar and all this. It's good for us, It's good for us also, I think, to do something that we're not quite sure is it going to work or what. But then I usually think, well, it doesn't do any harm. And I see how the mind becomes, as Hila is saying, it's a really, really nice practice. I love to do it. So anyway, so she sent me this email and I said, okay, I'm going to contact this. And best thing is you contact Singapore because they buy these, the shrimps or mussels. So this is easy to do big numbers. In the space of one day, she had enough people to help her to liberate 30,000 animals in one day. And she thought, how am I going to do this? Of course, she has to pay for the animals, but it's not a problem because they have the money to do this. But people were ready to go through to buy the animals, to do the practice for them, and then to liberate them in the name of her sister who is having this pregnancy. But it could also be that you have this big task and nobody is helping you. So that is also ripening of our positive actions when you have the help that you need in order to do whatever you need to do. So we are going to do, because Lapa Duchen is coming up soon. I think it's on the 27th of October. It's a very powerful Buddhist day. So whatever you do that day in terms of, virtue, then it increases many, many times. So then again, can we believe it? Can we not believe it? Well, what's the harm of believing it and then just doing something? Yeah, you will only find out whether it works or not when you become a Buddha. So then if you ever become a Buddha, then you will know that it works. If you never become a Buddha, well, you still don't know whether it works or not. But it definitely doesn't do any harm. And it does create a lot of merit, I am sure. I don't know if I told you, if you participated, I did in Graz, we did the Tara retreat. And most of the problems of the center got resolved in these 1 week Tara retreat, just like this. Like they have a big stupa in town of Graz, and they needed to do renovation for 100,000 euro. So can you imagine a small group? How are they going to get the money? And so they were trying to raise the money in 6 months. They had like 3,000 euro, but still 97,000 euro missing. So then during the retreat, the city of Graz called and they said they would pay for the renovation. So again, Buddhism, the Buddhas, Tara, they're not miracle makers, but we can create the condition by doing these practices that the positive karma that we have is going to ripen instead of the negative. And sometimes it works, very often it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So it's not like 100% sure, but at least we try. And I think also, we see that we're quite helpless in big situations like this. But then being able to do something, we feel that we are actively actually doing something instead of just sitting there and feeling hopeless and thinking like, oh, what can I do? Yeah, so this is really, these kind of practices and Tantra, this is really something you need to do in order to see the effect. Otherwise, it's like, it seems like a little bit crazy. So it's funny, like in Bern, what we do, we buy worms for fishing. Yeah, like in Switzerland, many people buy in the fishing shops, fishery shops. There's live worms, and then they're going to be put on the hook, and then for sure they die. And so this is where we buy them. So the first time I went on the boat, I can't remember how many, you know, more than 200-300, maybe 500. So the guy there, he said, look, I'm really sorry, but I have to ask you, what are you doing with all these worms? So I told him, and whenever I tell somebody what we're doing, I'm always starting by saying, I know it's quite strange, right? So then I explained what we're doing so that he knows that I also know it's strange, you know, that I don't think it's normal. And so I said, this is what we're doing. And he was very inspired, and he gave me 2 boxes for free. And we have become quite good friends. And even now here, I'm not in Bern anymore. And I called him up and I said, oof, I need a lot of worms. And he said, no problem, I can send them to you wherever you are. Just let me know how many, and I will put in bulk, and I will give them to you for cheaper than when I sell them for the fishes, like that. So quite a lot of people are quite impressed with what we're doing. And, you know, at the beginning, they think we're crazy, I do admit. But then when we keep doing it, and then, so that's quite good. So, so as I'm saying, it's on the 27th of October. So whatever positive action you can do, then that day, and you dedicate it for the benefit of all sentient beings, it will definitely bring a result that we want. When the result is coming, this we don't know, because it's the same. You put the seed into the ground, the fruits you will not have immediately. Like, you know, this, can't remember his name. The one from Farmonash, the man, do you remember his name? The woman is Amira, and he is, can't remember. So he tried to do vegetable garden, but, you know, sell the vegetables didn't work. So now he planted pecan nut trees 2 years ago. And he says, I will probably not live to see them, you know, to be able to harvest, but still I planted it. So it will be for the people who come after him. So, oh, that's that. So constructive actions means, you know, you find the help that you need. Okay. Then the features of karma, the characteristics of karma. Karma is definite. So if the action is destructive, then it will result in suffering. Even if you have short-term happiness, you know, when you're able to cheat somebody and you are quite happy that it worked, then, but that's not the result of the action you did now. This, that you're happy about it is kind of something that comes more from the past, when it, you know, you're able to cheat the person and you're very happy. So this is called negative rejoicing. So this is something that we should also avoid. Sometimes, you know, life is so complicated that sometimes we cannot be 100% honest, although you should always try to do that. But then at least we should not be happy about it, that it worked, and make a dedication or a wish, you know, whatever difficult situations I meet in the future, may I be able to solve the problem, because we're constantly solving problems without having to lie or something like that. So karma is definite. What you have not created, you cannot experience. That means hope and fear is totally useless. Like when we are hoping for good results, then if we haven't created the cause, nothing will happen. And if we the fear of negative results is also not going to shield us or protect us from situations that we don't want to experience. So that's kind of, you know, that's kind of easy to understand. With the garden, if you plant seeds, and the seeds are planted, but they don't have good conditions, like, you know, the earth is totally dry, or here in Europe, it's winter and everything is frozen. nothing will grow, even though the seed is there. If you have perfect conditions, but there's no seeds, then also nothing will grow. So, you know, these two things need to come together. We have to create the seeds, but then also they have to meet the conditions, which is also a karmic result. Like whether we find the conditions or not is also karmic results. Then karma increases, means that from a very small action, we can have a big result. This is a little bit more difficult to understand. It says like if these seeds or potentials are staying on our mind stream, the longer they stay, the bigger the result will be. It's a little bit like from one small, you know, cherry seed, you can get a huge cherry tree with lots and lots of cherry fruits. This is a bit like this. So here it's quite, you know, karma is definite. What you've not created, you cannot experience. Karma increases and karma is never lost. This goes for destructive and constructive karma. Yeah, this for actions is the same. So also positive karma increases. Yeah, it kind of a small result can give in the future, can give a small action can give a huge result. Karma is never lost. It's not like actual seeds that after hundreds of years, maybe they lose their power to bring a fruit, unless it gets actively destroyed. You can actively destroy unwholesome karmic imprints by doing purification practices with the 4 opponent powers. We look at them, what they are, just soon. And you can also destroy, or you can't really totally destroy them, but you can make them inactive. You can burn positive seeds by being angry all the time, through anger. This is why they say constructive seeds are getting destroyed when we're getting angry all the time, because it's true, you know, like constructive seeds bring happiness. When you're angry all the time, there is no happiness, because you don't find pleasure. You don't find anything pleasant when your mind is full of anger. Everything is unpleasant. Okay, is that clear until here? Otherwise, please ask, yeah? Especially the people who are new, like the ones who have heard this already 50 times or more, then of course you understand all this. But I find it very helpful to have all these features so we can figure out what our action is going to do. Because we keep asking, what about those, that, yeah? So then for the action to be complete, you need the intention or the mind state. So it's not, it's not an active intention, how to say. It is not something that you say, okay, I'm going to get angry and I'm going to say this unpleasant word and then this other person will be hurt. This is not, it's not meant. That's what we hear when we hear the word intention. It's more something that it is so that it's more an instinct, or like the actual state of mind when we do the action. This is why, it is so important to create or to develop awareness, and not an awareness so much what's happening outside, but an awareness that looks inside. What is the state of my mind before we act with body and speech? Yeah. Okay. So the intention is important. That's actually the most important thing. That is what is mostly determining whether the action becomes constructive or destructive. Then you need to do an action, then you need to have an object, and you need to finish the action. So if we take an action of killing, for example, a mosquito or, small insect or whatever. So the intention is that thing, whatever it is you want to kill, should not be there. It's getting on my nerves. It is going to bite me and it's going to drink some of my blood, and it should not be there. So it's aversion towards it here. Then the action is you actually take your human intelligence to wait until it's sitting somewhere, and then you just go flutch, far too strong. You don't need to go so strong. The object, of course, is the mosquito who loses its life. which is the completion, like the mosquito is dead. Okay. Anybody wants to give me another example of a constructive or a destructive action with these four sections present?
Like you want to give something, let's say money to a beggar. So you need the intention to do that, but you also need to really do it. Sometimes you think I'm gonna give, but then we don't do it. So the action, of course, the object also, you need someone to receive, beggar in this case, and completion, that the beggar actually indeed receives
Okay.
what you're giving.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Tomer. It's not just I want to give money. It's more the intention. Why do I want to give money? What kind of attitude? Yeah, am I giving it because the person is disturbing me? I feel guilty and I'm giving the money. Am I giving it because this person is giving me the opportunity to practice generosity? Is this why I'm giving? You know, am I actually giving because I think, wow, you are giving me the opportunity to create the karma that I will attain enlightenment. So therefore, I will then also help you the same way as I'm giving you the money now. I will give you dharma in the future. Or am I giving it because my friend is with me and I want to impress them by showing how generous I am? So can you see how it's not so much just the thought I want to give and the action of giving, but it depends a lot on the mind state at that moment, because I want to give something is quite a neutral mind state, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Anybody else with an example?
But I think regarding the example I said, there's always, at least for practitioners, there's always this thought, okay, I'm practicing generosity. So there is almost always this thing which is about me. I am practicing generosity because I am walking the path and I want to.
Okay.
So in a way, this is also a bit, I'm thinking about myself. It's not totally about the other person, right?
That's very good. It's very good the way you kind of put it. But the question is it really? Because when you say, Mahayana practitioner, why are you practicing? What's the purpose?
I have to say for myself that practicing, I feel that when I practice generosity, or when I become more generous, it helps me to live a happier life. I feel easier. It helps me to let go of things that I'm holding on to, that I'm attached to, I don't know, material possessions and things. Okay. Then this is how.
Okay, so if you give with that intention, it is still a constructive karma, constructive deed, but it will, to become a better human being, it will still, it will give you happy moments, but only like contaminated karma by thinking, you are happy for a moment, then the happiness finishes and that seed is exhausted and it's finished. Whereas if you can give with the thought of, you giving me the opportunity to attain enlightenment. Enlightenment, why? Because I want to benefit all sentient beings, then the positive karma continues until then. So it already gives you happiness now. So you don't need to have this, this short-term intention, although it's very much there, of course it's there, as you say, but it's good to catch it and then to have the goal that goes a little bit further. And not just a little bit, that goes very much further to say, oh, great, you give me the opportunity. Now the immediate result is I feel good about myself, I feel lighter, I make a good connection. And it's actually me who should say thank you, because without you, I couldn't practice generosity. And why am I practicing generosity? Because I want to become a Buddha. in order to benefit all sentient beings. And if at the end of your action, you can then think about emptiness, that I, because there is an I, you know, there's a conventional I, we are somebody. I, the action of giving, and the gift itself is totally, or the one who is receiving it, is totally empty of any inherent existence. So it takes away the arrogance a little bit, yeah. Because, yeah, of course, you know, the conventional I or me definitely exists. So otherwise you fall into too much emptiness and too much nihilism. So that's okay, yeah. So that would be an action of like creating or practicing the perfection of generosity. Otherwise, when we just give, of course, it's a positive action, and it's or a constructive action, and it creates the karma of generosity, and that means that in the future you will have in abundance, which is good, but you also lose it at the time of death. Yeah. So this is why, you know, when we don't take emptiness into consideration or bodhicitta, it leads to happy lives. That's true, but these happy lives also end. So they say, if we do these actions without a good knowledge about emptiness, which we are, I mean, this is samsara, and we are in samsara. So it does create happy moments and happy lives, but they finish. And, you know, it's sometimes happy, sometimes happy, sometimes sad. Do you want an actual or a general example? Doesn't really matter. Whatever you feel like. Yeah, I think it's good also to think about, I know we don't like to think about negative actions, but when it comes to ethical conduct on the first stage of the Lam Rim, it's more about abstaining from negative actions than doing positive actions. The doing positive actions comes then when it comes to bodhicitta and these kind of things. So first we have to learn to abstain from negative actions, and actually abstaining from a negative action is already doing a positive action. If you consciously, you know, like for example, there's the beggar with his cup and he has fallen asleep, and you kind of, you know, you want to buy a cup of coffee for yourself. You notice that you don't have your credit card and you don't have your wallet, and you think, oh great, and you take the money to buy a cup of coffee for you. So that would, and then you think, hey, come on, what are you thinking? So you had the thought, you had the plan, you had the intention, but you didn't do it. So then it still creates some imprints, but very, very, very weak ones. The imprints is not, you know, the action is not complete. It still has a small effect maybe, but it's not as, the effect is not as heavy as when you have, like, if you take the money, you go and buy your coffee and you're very happy that you did it, you know. So when we see what we're about to do and we abstain from it, that moment the positive imprint is created. Yeah, or with the mosquito, you know, the instinct is like going like this, and you go, oh no. And then that moment you create a positive karma of not killing. Okay, Dina, did you want to give us your example? Yeah, yes, no, yes. Your microphone is open, so just go ahead.
So if you do a bad thing non-intentionally, let's say you get angry with someone, you didn't have the intention to do it.
Well, but still,
you get angry.
Yeah, this is what I mean. When we talk about intention, we don't really understand. It's not a conscious intention. It's a subconscious habit of getting angry. So, okay, continue.
Oh, okay. So that I understand. That's mean the way to avoid like getting angry too frequent is to think about it, to I don't know, to contemplate about it, and then maybe when you want to get angry, you can, you know, stop yourself from doing this.
Yeah. This we talk about tomorrow, you know, applying antidotes to negative emotions. The first step is really awareness, to know, oops, I'm angry. And then you stop your speech and you stop your body for a moment until you feel the anger dies down. We're going to look at this tomorrow, because these very strong emotions, if we, at the side of it, we have awareness and we know what's going on, they don't last so long. And they die down quite quickly. They come back again, that's true. But they don't last so long. And then we say something. Yeah. But we cannot, maybe we continue with the list here so that it becomes clearer. We cannot prevent ourselves from getting angry, because it's karma also, If the habit is still there, then, and the condition comes, boom, then we get angry. What we can do now is like not reacting on it and not creating more negative karma.
Okay, and what about if you help a beggar and then the beggar goes and buy drugs with the money you gave him?
But your intention was not, you didn't give him money to buy drugs, okay? So you're not responsible for what other people do. But again, it's very, very complex. It's really not black and white. It has, it has so many conditions and situations, and that we don't know. Only a Buddha would know. You see, like what you say now. Okay, he goes and buys drugs. Okay, he buys drugs. What about if he goes and kills somebody if he doesn't buy a drug? Then is it better to give him? Is it better to give him the money so he buys drugs? He is relaxed. He's not going to kill anybody else, or is it better not to give him the money? You see, we're not going into these hypotheses things because we don't know. And when we talk about karma, it is not so much what other people do; it's what I am doing. Because we don't know other people's intentions and what they do and all this. And we have a habit, or we have a wish to be able to control others so that whatever we do to them, they use it in a beneficial way. But, we don't have any control. Not even the Buddha has control over that. So the first thing that we can really see, what is my intention? You see, I was an alcoholic, so some of you might not know. So then when I see homeless people in the street and I see they're alcoholics, I sometimes give them quite a bit of money, and I tell them that they can do with it whatever they want to do. So because I know if they need whatever they need, they will get it through stealing or doing other things. And when I give money to a beggar like this, but I'm not saying you should do that, okay? This is what I'm doing. I have an open heart, and I understand in what situation they are. So I'm actually not so much practicing generosity, but I'm more practicing connection, understanding. I see them, I acknowledge them, I appreciate them. And I'm really grateful that I was able to stop drinking, because I could be in the same situation.
Okay,
yeah, I'm not saying you should give money to beggars. This is, you decide, You decide.
I mean, one of my teachers said that sometimes maybe it's better, instead of giving money, giving them food or something like this, so they at least don't harm themselves. But sometimes they don't want food; they want to buy drinks.
I know how it is. If you are addicted to something, you're not interested in food. But very often they're actually quite happy to take the food also. And or sometimes they're also, I don't know, sometimes they're really clever. It's like, because they know we like to give, especially when they see me with my robes, right? So they know that Buddhist and blah, blah, blah. So they always come, but not all, there's not so many, but when they see me, they come. So then the other day in the train station, and there's all these food stalls, right? So he comes and he says, oh, wow, I'm really hungry. Can you buy me a slice of pizza? So I said, yes, of course, absolutely no problem. And then he says, I also have a girlfriend, so maybe can I get two? So I said, yeah, of course, absolutely no problem. And so it was like 16 francs, and I didn't have change, and I needed to go to the train. So I give him, I saw that he had ordered the slices, so that was okay, and they were being packed and everything. So I gave him 20 francs, and which is about 18 euros, something like that. And then I was very happy just being able to give it, like without thinking too far. But then at the end, I thought, wow, if he would have asked me for money, I would have given him 2 francs. Now he's got 2 slices of pizza plus 4 francs. because that's what I usually give, either 2 or 5 francs, so that it's really worthwhile, actually. And it's like, you know, also it's like it's not that we should feel that I have to give. It's like, I want to give something, but then what to give an addicted person that is really helpful? He's like, I don't know. The best thing we can give him is just appreciation, love, and connection. But if you don't give money, how are you, you know, it's no point. So it's like, this is difficult. I mean, we always come with the beggar, and it's always the most difficult subject. But again, you know, when we see how much money we spend on a present for our friends, you know, who don't need anything. You know, even you know, and then we buy whatever we think is nice, right? And so then they have to like it, and they have to keep it until the end of their life on top of it. And then how much we invest in giving somebody who really needs something. So I think a good thing is, if you don't want to give money to the beggars, that's fine, you know, because as you say, it just, you not giving any money is not going to stop their addiction. That's one thing. But also, you know, with the beggars, there's so much misuse also of children who are being injured, so that we have more compassion, especially in India, you know, mothers who are so desperate that they burn the skin of their children. So then when they come, you know, the kid is in the arms, and then they come in front of you, and then the kid is kind of covered with a cloth. Oh, they take away the cloth, and you see this huge wound. So how can you not give? And they use it. So it's, or they want, you know, milk powder, and they go and sell it. And he's like, this is what poverty is doing, or this is what addiction is doing. It makes people do horrible things, you know. So it's like, so we can be happy that we're not there. And it's a very, very difficult topic. But what you can give to institutions who are helping poor people, and who are helping addicted people, or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Okay, so for the action to be complete, you need intention, action, object, completion. So you need these 4 factors. And then when these 4 factors are present, it becomes very powerful karma. And it becomes what is called throwing karma, means it creates a seed or a potential that will throw you into your next existence, okay? When any of these factors there are not there, it becomes what is called completing karma. It determines the conditions in a life, okay? So if you have like a negative karmic imprint to be reborn in the hell states, so that's where you will be reborn, but there also life is impermanent. That will also finish. You come back into the, you know, you come back as a human, which is created by a constructive seed, and then you still have some residues, or the completing karma, like for example, the throwing karma. To be a human has to be, that seed has to be constructive, like positive, right? Virtuous. Otherwise, no way you have this human body. But then the completing karma in that life can be really bad, like, you know, being born in Africa under terrible conditions, Afghanistan at the moment, or other places, yeah? Or you can have a throwing karmic seed to be reborn as an animal, but you can be reborn as an animal, then the completing karma is like you're somebody's pet, like cat or dog, and you're being really well looked after. So these 2 things kind of come together, okay? Is that okay, more or less, my dears? I know it's kind of, and what if the beggar is a manifestation of a Buddha? That's the best way to think. This beggar is my guru. He comes to check how I practice generosity. The person who makes you angry, this person is my guru. He comes to check where I am with my patience. That's the best thought. We don't know, you know, we don't know if the beggar is a Buddha. Maybe this is what the lamas sometimes say. As a Buddha, you can manifest as a very sick dog in Bodh Gaya, so that we develop compassion. Because we don't see if you don't see anybody who is suffering, we don't have compassion. For our compassion, we need suffering beings. So, yeah. Well, it's a good thought. That's what we should think. Whoever is in front of us is a Buddha or is my guru, and he comes to see and to check where I am. Then we behave quite in a perfect way. So the heaviness of karma is the object, the subject, the motivation, manner of accomplishment. That also determines whether, what the result, let's say like this. So the object, of course, is if you steal from a beggar, this is much heavier than if you steal from a supermarket, okay? It's clear, because you see, it's not the Buddha who sat down and wrote this list, but we know that. We know that we feel more guilty if we steal from somebody who's already poor than if we steal from a supermarket, yeah? So that's clear, isn't it? The object that determines the karmic seed. It's your mind who is creating the karma, nobody else. It's your mind who makes it karma heavy or not so heavy. And it's not conscious thinking that makes it heavy or not so heavy. It's more deeper down, our own innate wisdom that we have, yeah? Like our conscience. I say good conscience, bad conscience. It's a bit like this. And not necessarily, when you do a non-constructive action and you feel very happy about it, that doesn't make it constructive. Deep down, we know. So it's kind of how do we know that what we do is kind of constructive or how to say? How do we know what kind of seed is being created? Is when we turn the whole thing around. If that would have been done to me, would I see this as constructive or destructive, right? So it's like, then we know. Then we know what's constructive and what is destructive. So the subject, if somebody who is holding vows is doing a negative action, then of course that's heavier than if somebody who has absolutely no idea or somebody who is not in their right mind, or when you said, absolutely no intention, but here, when you say I had no intention, but I got angry. So it's the anger which is the intention, because anger always has a wish to harm, even if it's very hidden. It's not very apparent. We have to really study that and observe it when anger is present, that there is a wish for this other person not to be happy and even a wish to harm them. Then what also determines whether the karma becomes very powerful, maybe heaviness is not so good, but powerful, is the motivation. Why are we doing it? Are we doing it just for my purpose, or are we doing it really, are we thinking about the other person as well? And then the manner of accomplishment is, they say, sometimes, as I said, sometimes we have to do so-called unpleasant actions. And so the way we do it. So, because when your house is totally infested by insects, so you have two possibilities. Either you leave the house to the insects, but it's not very skillful. But sometimes you have to get rid of them. But first try to find any other means how to get rid of them before you kill them. But then make sure that when you do have to kill them, that you kill them with a lot of compassion and in a swift and quick way, and then make prayers for them to have a good rebirth. Now, when I say this, again, the motivation or being honest, this can be a total excuse for doing whatever you want to do. You can do everything, even negative actions, with the excuse of bodhicitta, but your own mind will know whether it was just an excuse or whether you really meant it. Okay. So then what is a non-virtuous or an unconstructive action? So we have three of the body, and they're easy to understand. It's killing, taking somebody's life, stealing, taking something that was not given, sexual misconduct. What goes in there is forcing somebody, of course, having already a partner and going off with somebody else and not being honest about it, and having sexual conduct, forcing somebody, or not even forcing them, but maybe paying somebody. But again, I knew prostitutes. When I was a kid, my dad had a nightclub. So I knew prostitutes who really loved what they were doing. I mean, she chose to become a prostitute. And she took me to the ice rink and this. So I was very close to her. I don't know if that still exists these days, but she really chose it, and she earned a lot of money. So we don't know about this, but, you know, is it sexual misconduct if you go to a prostitute? There again, you know, it's so far reaching, because your sexual lust would be so incredibly great that if there's no prostitutes, then you would rape somebody. This one, I don't know, but definitely, you know, the first two, what I said is like forcing somebody and adultery. These are the most grave ones. Raping somebody or forcing somebody, you know, and having a partner and going off, or knowing that the person that you have sexual contact with already has a partner. It's clear? The 3 actions of body. So we don't know, you know, for the beginning, we're at the beginning of the Lam Rim. So you don't need to go any further. So we kind of, we concentrate on these actions first before we go into very complicated things. What about if blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So whenever we can abstain from having sexual misconduct. I think for us, if you're still fairly young, the only danger would be adultery. You have already a partner, you go to a party, you fall in love with somebody else, or maybe not, just, you know, sexual lust, desire, and you think, just once, it doesn't matter. I tell you, it can really totally destroy your happy relationship that you have with somebody because of one night. I had so many examples of people coming to ask me, I don't know what to do. I had this one night with this guy. It's usually women, so I don't know who come to tell me. I don't know about men. I had this one night. I don't know whether to tell my husband or not to tell him. So if you don't tell him, she just feels bad about the whole thing, and it keeps coming back and coming back. You tell him you're honest, he might turn away from you. So just for one short moment of sexual desire, it's really not worthwhile. So it's good to, you know, to think about these things before you engage in this. And then, yeah, your desire doesn't get fulfilled, but it's no big deal. But this is being handled. I don't know how it is these days, but when I was young, this was being handled in a very, very light way, you know, and we can harm and hurt the people that we actually say we love when we spend the night with somebody else. So I think for this is what there can be danger. Then the 4 of speech, lying, slander, harsh words, and gossip. It's clear, yeah, what these are. Yeah, okay. Then the 3 of mind is envy, harmful thoughts, and wrong views. So these are, you know, that's not what we would call action, but it leads to actions when we're envious about, you know, the new car of the neighbor or whatever, shoes or mobile or whatever, and all our effort and energy goes into getting the whole thing or even better. Harmful thoughts is like negative rejoicing when we're happy when somebody else is not getting what they wanted. And of course, again, wrong views wrong views is you need to be convinced, yeah. Like having doubts about the working of karmas and rebirth and the Buddha and all this, that's not wrong views. Wrong views is when you are convinced there is no such thing as, you know, law of cause and effect. There is no such thing as enlightenment. There is no such thing as rebirth and all this. This would be, for a Buddhist, wrong views, but not only for a Buddhist, because of course, Christian people, they believe in a greater God. So then it's not wrong views, because again, it's not absolute, you know, it's not absolutely wrong views. It is all these negative actions, they are hindering us to attain enlightenment. So if you don't want to attain enlightenment, this is not, you know, this doesn't apply. Okay. So the 10 virtuous actions would be either abstaining from these things consciously or doing the opposite, you know, saving lives, being generous, abstaining from sexual conduct. So then you're sure that there's no sexual misconduct, because also it's a very complicated topic. If you read in the texts, there's many things, you know, that are sexual go under sexual misconduct. So the best thing is not to have any sexual conduct. Somebody at one point asked me, well, if everybody is abstaining from sexual contact, then very quickly we don't have humans anymore on this planet. So I said, that's not the problem at the moment, you know. It will be a long time until we have no more humans, so don't worry about that. It would be okay to just not to make more, whatever. Okay, then whatever we have already created, we can purify it, and we can purify it with the 4 opponent powers, which is we need to understand that something is not helpful, you know, that the action is not helpful, that the attitude is not helpful, so we generate regret, not guilt or shame. Nowhere it says that we should be guilty or feel ashamed. That reverses the ripening result. Yeah, like we have 4 results, so maybe we have to go into these first. So any action, any potential gives 4 results. So one is the ripening result that throws us into our next rebirth. Then when, you know, in that rebirth itself, or when that is finished, there's some residue, as I said, and then we have a result which is similar to the action. Means that we create a habit. Then we have another result, which is similar to the cause. And that means the same thing happens to us. And then we have an environmental result. So like when it's positive karma ripening, we have, like, we are born in a very beautiful place where it's easy to practice the Dharma, or when not, then we are born in a kind of difficult place. Yeah, when it's a negative or a non-constructive result. So, you know, you have this list. You can either download it from the website, or I can put it again in the chat if you want, and you can download it. And then once you have this list, all your questions, you're actually able to answer them yourself. But it's a very profound topic, so it's good to spend much more time on this. But since we go in these 3 weekends, we go through the whole Lam Rim so that you see the structure of it. So you see from A to Z, and then you start to fill in what is missing, like information that is missing. But karma is a difficult topic because it has so many different aspects and conditions, and you know, what's the present situation, how is my state of mind, what's the situation of the other person. It's like, you know, but it doesn't determine your karma. The potential is not being determined by what the other one does. Okay. It's determined by your intention, how you do the action, with whom you do the action, and how happy you are about when you finish the action. This is what creates the karmic seed, or the heaviness of the karmic seed. Okay, so, but we can purify negative karma, which we did with these 4 opponent powers. We did, no, it wasn't Yom Kippur. When was it? We did it on the New Year. Yeah, like starting the new year and doing purification. So you need to, it's also 4 features. You need to regret what you have done. That's the power of regret. Then you need to have the power of the object is like you take refuge and you generate bodhicitta. Bodhicitta you generate in order to kind of pay back the debts we have towards others when we harm them. And refuge you take, that means we trust these methods that they work. So we do these methods. Then we need to do an action. And that can be many things, you know, it can be studying about emptiness. That's the most powerful action for purification. Then we see that, you know, nothing is the way that it appears. We can do Vajrasattva, kind of visualization and mantra recitation, or any other Buddha. We can do tsatsas, we can do prostrations, or you can do any positive action where your intention is to eradicate or to purify that negative seed, you know, to eliminate it. And then the 4th power is the power of determination, which reverses the tendency to repeat the action, which is the power of determination, to say, not from now until I die, I will not do this again, but to take time to say, okay, the next hour, I will not do this. Because when we have habits, it is very painful not to follow the force of the negative emotion. Yeah, it's very difficult. It's painful almost not to follow habits. So when you get angry, please understand this is a habitual reaction from another same reaction. I have no power. We don't have power over what is arising when our mind meets an object. Yeah, it can be disinterest, it can be anger, it can be attachment, desire, or whatever. This we don't have control. The only control we have is that we are aware, we notice it, and then we say, no, thank you. I'm not going to repeat the action. If we can. If we have, if we follow the habit, we go like, oh, okay, this is not useful. So next time I'll be more careful. Okay, so this is how we deal with it. I know that was very fast and that was very quick, but many of you have heard this before. So it's just a repetition of, how what everything comes together with karma. But if you have some more questions, we can definitely look at them. Can you repeat throwing karma, please? Yeah, throwing karma is when we die, we have a wish for existence. Like it says our mind is looking to be somebody, right? So that mind state at the time of death, that doesn't want to disappear, that wants to exist, activates a karmic seed, and that seed throws us into our next body, which can be, from Buddhist point of view, a hell body, which is full of pain, a hungry ghost body, which is lacking everything that we need to have. It can be an animal body, it can be a human body, it can be a demigod or a god body. Yeah. So when the seeds are positive or constructive, then the best is getting a human body, because then we can practice. If you have one of like a not constructive seed or a negative seed, will create a body, like an existence in a lower state, which is hell beings, hungry ghosts, and animals. And why are they negative? Because they're full of pain and because you can't practice the Dharma. Yeah. So the throwing karma is like, it's a seed that determines what kind of form we're going to take in the life that comes after death. Is that clear? And the completing karma, we only have one throwing seed in each lifetime, because you can't change your form from a human to a dog or something like that. So thank you, Andrea. Great. So the completing karma, that changes all the time. The throwing karma is like, once you're born human, until you die, you will be human. You can go down on your 4 legs and go, wow, 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 wow. It's like you won't become a dog, because you still don't have a dog body. Yeah, so we have to die in order to change the body of our existence. Whereas the completing karma, that can change. Yeah, so this is why, for example, when we say, yeah, but human beings that are born in very difficult places, they are like being in hell. No, because they don't have to die for the conditions to change. They're still human, and they can go to another country where they feel safe. And we see that this is happening all the time. It's like people who have enough positive karma to be able to become refugees, and then they have enough positive karma to be welcomed by a country. In Switzerland, we have lots of refugees that have, they have quite happy existences. Their children have been born here, they have good jobs, and so it's okay. We have also a lot of refugees who didn't make it, who still, totally depending on social money, welfare, and who are not able to live independently on their own. We have Swiss people who are born here who are in that situation. So it's that, that's completing karma. But we should, it doesn't mean again, don't go into fatalism by saying, oh, but everything is karma and it will just happen, so therefore I don't need to do anything. And then you try it out and you think, okay, if I have the karma to get hit and killed by a car, I will get hit and killed by a car, so therefore I walk across the highway. You know, that would be stupid. You know, we can try to protect ourselves, but sometimes we can't, but we should definitely try to protect our good situation that we have at the moment. Okay. For those who are maybe not so, who haven't, you know, heard this 100 times already. Because if it's okay, then we can stop here and do the concluding prayers. Yeah. Okay, or if you have questions and you're here tomorrow again, then you can ask, you know. All these topics, they're kind of connected with each other. So if we just take one out like this, then it becomes a bit difficult to understand. Like the whole Lam Rim is like pieces of a puzzle. If you have them all together, you start to see the picture quite clearly. Some still don't. But you know, when you start to see the structure of it, then it starts to make sense. But sometimes it takes a long time to see the structure of it. You know, why there are these steps and where it goes and like this. Sometimes it's very quick, so that depends on karma also. Okay, so there is a new prayers online. Here we go. So we can do the concluding prayers. It's just the dedications that we do in order for the merit, the virtuous actions that we have done, for them not to get lost. That's why we always do dedication, so that it cannot get destroyed by anger. So dedication is very important, because it, you know, we reaffirm to ourselves why we want to do that, and then we can change our habits. Tomorrow we'll do maybe the beginning prayers also, maybe, we'll see. Here. So again, think about the motivation we had this morning when we started, you know, when we said, what kind of person would I like to be? What is the goal? What is the purpose of my practice? So we're not thinking like this so that we get all stressed and that it should happen immediately. We are thinking like this so that we know where we want to go and we're not going off track. So the motivation and the dedication, it can be the same thing actually. So this morning we decided why we are listening to these and why we're doing spiritual practice. And now we did actions of, you know, of listening, talking, discussing, reflecting the whole day. So we think this whole energy that we have created together, we kind of directed to that goal, that the motivation you had this morning. So of course, as a Mahayana practitioner, the best, you know, you want to become a Buddha as quickly as possible. So we think through the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha, and then why, not just for myself, and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. Because it's only as a fully awakened being, I have the skills, I have the universal love, compassion, equanimity, and to be able to guide beings to that state that I have attained as a Buddha. So that's why we dedicate like this. Then the next one is, now this is Bodhichitta, you know, that we do these spiritual practices, not just for myself, but in order to then help, because helping others is another human, almost natural instinct that we have. We like to help, but very often we don't have the skills. And very often we don't have the right attitude. We have attached compassion and we have attached love. So then it's a little bit flawed it's still a positive action, but then the happiness that comes from it, it will end. So then as a Buddha, you know, we help others just for the sake of helping them without any agenda. And then as a Buddha, we will know whether we have to give the beggar now money so he can go and buy drugs or alcohol, because otherwise he goes crazy and kills somebody, or whether, you know, what else to do that will help in the long run. But it's complicated. Yeah. So the best way to help others, of course, is to show them that they are responsible for themselves. And that we have to do with a loving and compassionate mind, not because it disturbs us to be the way they are, but because we have compassion and we understand their suffering from our own experience. So may the precious body mind not yet born arise and grow, may that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Right, and then we always, you know, wish our teachers, our gurus, our guides, a long, healthy, and stable life. And it creates the cause, it creates the karma. When we do these, that every lifetime we find the perfect guru that will be able to guide us to enlightenment. Now, when I say he will be able to guide me, it's not about the guru who is not able to guide me, it's that I don't allow the guru to guide me. So these two things need to come together. The ability of the guru and me, the readiness to be guided, okay? So this is why we always do these long life prayers. And then also they will stay for a while, yeah? Or when nobody is thinking, oh, you know, I really need you, and like this, then they say, well, what's the point? Yeah. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all powerful Chandresic Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Great, thank you very much. If it wasn't clear, don't worry. It's not, so if you hear it for the first time, it's not supposed to be clear, by the way. You know, it's just supposed for you to have some interest and then progress further. This is basically the thing. And I think everybody can affirm it when you hear it many, many times. You always hear it a little bit different, and all of a sudden it starts to make sense. So you know, hearing it once, even if we would have had more time, I don't think it would have been that much more beneficial. The main thing is that we have heard it, you know, it maybe stirs up the interest, or maybe it totally puts you off. This is also, that's not the purpose, but it could be, who knows? And so we have to hear this again and again and again and again. Yeah, thank you, Dina. Also, everybody have a nice evening, have a good rest, and maybe see you tomorrow morning again at 9 o'clock. And then we come to the middle scope, we talk about dukkha and the causes for dukkha. Dukkha is this unsatisfactory existence that even though we have a lot of joys and we have a lot of pleasures, but it's still not satisfying. And then the causes, which are our afflictive emotions or unhelpful attitudes, or whatever you want to call them. Okay?
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you, Anila.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Shabbat
Thank you,
shalom.
Anila. See you tomorrow morning.
Bye bye.
Yeah, Shabbat shalom. Have nice dinner with your family.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.
Good night.